Accessible syllabus training.
Anatomy of an accessible syllabus document. We will cover the following topics as we review them as essential elements in an accessible syllabus document. 1. Headings. 2. Lists. 3. Links. 4. Alternative text for images and visuals. 5. Tables. In addition, we will address color and contrast, how to check your Word document for accessibility, and saving a PDF to preserve applied accessible settings and formatting. Before we dive into work on our actual documents, we will compare a not yet accessible document with one that is optimized for basic accessibility. Here's an example of a document that is not yet accessible. Here's an example of an accessible document. Here's a video demonstration of the NVDA screen reader reading an accessible document.
Heading Level 1 The School College of Education. The School College of Education is an elite academic institution in the desert southwest of the United States which trains the teachers who will teach the generations of tomorrow. We endeavor to follow all best practices so that you graduate too cool for school. Link enroll today. Heading Level 2 Our degree programs. List with 3 items. Bullet Bachelor of Arts Teaching. Bullet Bachelor of Arts Secondary Education. Bullet Master of Science Technology and Education out of list. Heading Level 2 Our diversity policy. The School College of Education believes that all students should be in school, and we strive to have an inclusive and welcoming environment for all students. Heading Level 2 Tuitions Estimates. How much does it cost to go to school? Not as much as you'd think. See our estimates below to help plan this important part of your future. Table with 3 rows and 3 columns. Tuition estimates. In state versus out of state. Row 1 column 1 type of student. Column 2 semester. Column 3 4-year degree. Row 2 column 1 in state. Column $2 $1,200. Column 3 $9,600. Row 3 column 1 out of state. Column 2 $3,300. Column 3 $26,400.
The computer is not a typewriter. Page 1 of 2. As the ultimate goal for many syllabi is that they will become an accessible PDF for student use and/or the UNLV degrees directory, these preliminary items cover essentials that must be considered if not applied. Menu versus ribbons. We have 2 areas for the tools, the menu, the ribbons. The top line with white lettering on a blue background is considered the menu. These choices are fixed. They don't dynamically change based on the usage context. While the ribbons are the context-specific band which change depending which menu item is active and has black lettering on a gray background. You'll notice in the last image a portion of the Layouts ribbon including page setup and paragraph that are used to create accessible gaps and spacing in your documents. Here are the settings to apply and the tools to use for creating accessible Word documents. They can be found in the File menu, Home menu, Layout menu, and View menu.
We will now transition to demonstration of the essential elements for accessible document design.
Document Headings in Word, Part 1 of 4, Setting Headings. The first of our structural topics is document headings. We are intentionally applying semantic heading settings, using Microsoft Word tools. Unlike what we may have done back in the day, where we merely isolated a line of text, highlighted it, and applied various font settings, we will assign semantic tags, or, in this case, style. While we are applying this style, we will also be customizing its look. In this first part of 4, we focus only on the use and application of headings via heading styles. We are looking at an example file used in our live training. In this practice Word document, we already have unformatted text, an image, and a simple table already in place. Our first tasks will be our various heading assignments, using the Styles portion of the Microsoft Word ribbon. The ribbon is a context-specific area of commands below the Microsoft Word menu. When you are in the Home menu choice, you will see these tools in the corresponding ribbon, including the Styles section. We will alter these lines. Koalas, headings, and lists, oh my, will be assigned heading 1. We will address its appearance while completing this step. The order of things. A random list of things. And, infraclass, marsupialia will be assigned heading 2. Here, we will present another word-supported step for combining the form and function. The line marsupials, just above the koala image, will be designated as heading 3. Before we start the process of assigning and altering, let's be clear about the function part of the semantic tags we are working with here. We are not merely making labels. Headings, in their very nature, represent a navigable hierarchy within the document. Your document, if it supports your altering it, starts with heading 1 and progresses then to heading 2. You may not skip a level on the way down the progression. You can't just go from heading 1 to heading 3, nor can you just start with heading 2. Keep these in mind when you deal with headings and HTML-based content. Incidentally, you must also avoid the title style, as it is not a navigable element. Heading 1 is expected to be the start of your accessible Microsoft Word. Document headings, Part 2 of 4, Modifying Style Before Application. Back to our heading 1, or heading 1 style. Since we will be applying the semantic tag or style of heading 1 to this isolated line, we can either highlight the entire line, or merely click to move the cursor to the start of the line, which reads, Headers, Lists, and Tables, oh my. Notice that I have not yet focused on any tools or items in the font area of our ribbon. I then hover my mouse pointer over the heading 1 portion of the styles and right-click, hover, then right-click. Regardless of what happens to the body of the practice document, your focus should be on the resulting pop-up menu. Select the Modify choice, the second menu option in this pop-up menu. We hope you are now seeing the options which exist specifically to unite form with function for the heading 1 style. Please select Calibri Light for heading 1 font. Set 28 as your heading 1 font size. And select the B to apply bold. If you wish to make the heading 1 coloring a deeper shade of blue, that's fine, but let's stick with blue for this demonstration. Click OK when you have completed these selections. Now, did anything happen? Possibly not. If you immediately now left-click heading 1 in the Styles section, the settings we modified should now be applied to Headers, Lists, and Tables, oh my. Document Headings, Part 3 of 4, Updating Heading Style. We move now to settings that will become our Heading 2 style. What's different here is we will stage this to mimic what you might have in an older or legacy document. We start not with a Styles ribbon choice but first via our old-school font settings. We will set this up so a specific look we might already have can now be combined with a role or heading style. For the order of things, please highlight the line. Using the selections in the font portion of the ribbon, please apply these settings. Font. Calibri Light. Size. 24. Click B to select the boldface setting if not already selected. Having made these changes and with the order of things still highlighted, immediately hover your mouse pointer over heading 2 and click your right mouse button. This time we will select Update Heading 2 to match selection from the resulting menu. If the order of things did not keep the settings, click at the beginning of the line and then left-click on Heading 2 in the Styles section. The text should either retain the Calibri Light, 24 and bold options we selected, or change to them. We have made the Heading 2 inherit the attributes from the previous look we have manually and separately set. Now, if we click to the left of a random list of things, and then click Heading 2, and then click to the left of Infraclass Marsupialia, and click Heading 2, these will have the same form and function as the other Heading 2s. Nothing is preventing us from customizing individual lines later, but we ensure that we start with all of the necessary semantic, structural, and, yes, accessible settings. Before we are done with the headings tasks, we need to set Heading 3 to marsupials. We will leave any Heading 3 style customization to you. Please make sure that Heading 3 is applied after you have modified the style. Document Headings, Part 4 of 4, Confirming Heading Style Application. We are almost done with the headings demonstration. We wish to confirm our work in assigning headings. Please select View from the main word menu and select Navigation pane in the Show portion of the resulting ribbon. In this navigation pane, which appears to the left of the body of our practice document text, you see some arrows, or carrots, and a zigzag pattern. If you are unable to see your Heading 3 marsupials, click on the arrow next to a random list of things. We have chunked, via our headings, this text. You can test this non-destructively. In the navigation panel, drag the order of things so that it ends up below Infraclass Marsupialia. The body of your document should now reflect that the order of things and the chunk of narrative that followed it have now been moved to the end of our document. The headings define the portions or chunks of the text now. The headings have a function role and don't just look a certain way. Please restore the order of things to its previous position. If you are continuing to work on this document in this session, you may click to undo. If you are done with the document for the moment, you can close the document and select the Don't Save choice. Document lists in Microsoft Word. The steps required to create appropriate lists ensure that form and function are dealt with during the creation process. A reminder: bulleted and numbered lists are not interchangeable. Consistent use of appropriate list types helps all users. For accessibility though, screen readers like NVDA and JAWS inform the AT user that they are on a list. Possibly what type of list is shown, and how many items there are in the presented list. We will set up two different lists in Word. For our first list, we will format the lines of text under the Order of Things Heading 2 style into an ordered or numbered list using the corresponding Microsoft Word tool located within the Home menu/ribbon. Numbered lists imply sequence, importance, or steps through the position of each item in the lists. Let's look at the paragraph portion of the Home ribbon for our numbering tool. There are two sections of the tool. If you click on the left portion of the tool button, which has a thumbnail of a 3-item numbered list, you merely apply the tool clicking on the caret. On the right portion of the button, a drop-down menu appears which includes customization choices. Highlight the 7 lines of text, move your mouse pointer toward the numbering tool that is in the paragraph section of the Home ribbon, and click on the numbering thumbnail portion of the button. Our ordered or numbered list is now properly formatted. If the content of a formatted item extends beyond the width of a single line, the text will be presented to preserve the hanging indentation expected. Our second collection, under the heading 2 styled A Random List of Things, will be formatted as an unordered or bulleted list using the corresponding Bullets tool. There is no implication of the importance or sequence of items based on their positions in the resulting list. Highlight the lines of text. Move your mouse pointer to the Bullets tool and click on the bulleted list thumbnail portion of the button. Our unordered list has now been properly formatted. As with our previous list setup, if the content of the formatted bulleted item extends beyond the width of a single line, the text will be presented to preserve the hanging indentation expected. We have used our authoring tool to combine form and function in the creation of numbered and bulleted lists that will be accessible. In other words, screen reader users can navigate as well as differentiate these lists by how the assistive technology presents them. Links in Word, the Windows version. To complete this same task in the Windows version of Microsoft Word, begin by highlighting the operable phrase, word or words. For option 1 of this task, click Insert. Then proceed to the Links portion of the resulting ribbon and select the Link option. Enter the URL or web address into the address field in the resulting Insert hyperlink box. Confirming your entry by clicking OK. The other option is, after you highlighted the phrase or word/s in question, right-click and select Link from the resulting pop-up menu. This task is complete when you've entered the URL into the address field and you have clicked OK. If you are interested in additional strategies for presenting web addresses accessibly in other types of documents, particularly for documents that may be distributed both in printed and electronic formats, please contact your Office of Accessibility Resource Team for further assistance. Alternative, or alt text, simple. An important principle of web accessibility is adding alternative text to images. Alternative text, or alt text, is read by screen readers in place of images, allowing the content and function of the image to be described to the user, thus providing this explanation makes images accessible to those with visual or certain cognitive disabilities. There are 3 types of alt text: simple, decorative, and complex descriptions. Alt text entries for a simple image are not extensive but must be meaningfully specific. In fact, they must be succinct, 120 characters or less, because AT might truncate the words if the alt text exceeds the space it supports. If you think of the maximum length of a classic Twitter post or tweet, you are in the ballpark. If the image is a text-based logo, like UNLV, what is necessary is to say what the letters or the words say. Just keep it simple. Don't preface with, "This is an image of," or "This is a picture of," unless the format is key to understanding the presentation. If you are concerned about the wording of alt text and supporting images in online assessments or exams, that's understood. The alt text can be and should be customized for the situation. Hover over the image that needs the alt text applied. Right-click and select Edit Alt Text. In the description box, type your alt text. When finished, click the X to save. Different and/or additional strategies for emoji type, non-information, or decorative types of imagery, or for supporting complex images like diagrams, organizational charts, or flowcharts are explained in separate videos. Alt text, decorative. There are some images you do not wish a screen reader to acknowledge. Items which are not required or are not critical for information or instructional processing, like an emoji or a visible flourish like a fleur-de-lis, can be assigned a decorative image setting. This setting specifically prevents the screen reader from calling out the image, acting like an invisibility cloak. Decorative image settings should only be applied to images for which a mood is being set or are being shared to illustrate adjacent text, but do not contribute information. Hover over the decorative image and right-click. Select Edit Alt Text from the resulting pop-up menu. Click in the box to select Mark as Decorative. Do not place any text entry in the nearby field. When finished, click the X to save. Alternative text, complex description. An alt text in the complex description category requires much more thought and effort than a simple or decorative alt text. Significantly more text is required to convey the details of the image than a mere 120 characters. Let's consider an organizational chart as an example. While sighted visitors can perceive all of the characters, a simple alt text alone would be inadequate. In the alt text, we just indicate that this is an organizational chart, but we still have to provide a truly detailed and separate explanation of the content. Navigation within a Web Campus page. If you are presenting your chart in a page entry in your Web Campus course, you might consider adding a hyperlink below the organizational chart. When you visit the linked content, you are transported to an HTML file or page. The screen reader user would then have this detailed explanation presented to them in lieu of the image which they would not otherwise be able to perceive. Because it was prepared as an HTML link, the visitor who opts to receive the content can merely back up and be returned to where they left off when they are done consuming the content. Navigation within a Microsoft Word-sourced PDF. On one page, you present the chart. On subsequent pages, before continuing with other content, you present the detailed, item-by-item text-based version of the content. There are a number of strategies for addressing this, and other types of images requiring complex descriptions. Please contact ART for additional ideas for approaching long descriptions for complex images. Additionally, ART hosts workshops, webinars, and drop-in assistance sessions on complex descriptions and other specific accessibility topics. Please visit our training calendar for the latest information on upcoming events. Accessible tables in Word. A simple table is one in which there is a header row, preceding rows of data and information. If you are starting your table from scratch, generate the framework by using the Table tool, which is available in the Insert menu. At this time, it is neither current nor accessible to use tables for design layout or asset positioning. These are the items that we must address to have an accessible table. The table summary, which serves as the alt text or description of data. The header row, the top row that acts as a title for the type of information they will find in each column of the table. In our table, we click to the left of the upper leftmost item, as it represents what will become our header row. Click your secondary or right mouse button, and then select Table Properties from the resulting pop-up menu. Here, we're going to interact with the row and the alt text button or tabs to address the necessary semantic structure. So in the case of the row tab, what we need to do is switch what is active, or on. We remove the check from Allow row to break across pages, but activate the check on Repeat as header row at the top of each page. Not only does that add the header row role setting, but it ensures that a long, extensive data list that spans across pages will have this header row at the top of the Pages section of the table. Note that, While this is analogous to a heading, it is not exactly the same, so please do not apply any heading styles to this area at all. On the Alt Text tab, we have the Description field. The idea of this alt text is not to interpret or do the work of the student. It's there to convey context to the presented data. Think of it as a way to confirm the table's content, without having to listen to or view each and every cell with your assistive technology or AT. If you were creating this table in the HTML environment, this would be called the table summary. For this example, we state patterns and groupings that we see in the table. If you need to create accessible tables with significantly more complexity, please use Excel. In summary, Word can be used to create accessible tables. These tables are for presenting data, not for design or layout. The tables using the available tools can only be accessed by assistive technology when you apply the necessary semantic structure to the collection of data. Document color and contrast. Judicious use of color in your documents enhances the appearance of your information, whether in print or in electronic form, such as Word documents, PDFs, and on the web. While it may be a great tool to convey ideas visually, color may also create accessibility barriers. To ensure accessibility for electronic documents and on the web, the right color contrast must be employed, and color should never be the only means to convey information. Color contrast. When using color, it is important to have sufficient contrast between two colors, the background color and foreground color. Low contrast colors will make it difficult for visual users to read and/or understand the content, text or images of text, on the page. The Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, or WCAG, indicate that there should be at least a 4.5:1 ratio between the foreground content, such as your narrative text, lists, and table content, and the background content. This particular guideline is not applicable, however, if the content is large, like a major heading. If the text exceeds 18-point font size, or 14-point font size if bold, a ratio of 3:1 for contrast can exist. The content is decorative, like a mood setter or flourish. The content part of a logo. In addition to the limited tools in Microsoft Word, there are additional tools available for identifying color contrast concerns. Please contact the Office of Accessibility Resources team for more information. Saving an accessible Word file to an accessible PDF. Having ensured that you have applied any and all required accessibility settings to your Word document, the creation of a PDF that retains these settings requires specific steps to be completed. First, save your Word document as you have already, using the Save option in the File menu. To reliably create a separate accessible PDF from Microsoft Word in Windows, these are the steps to complete. This time, select the Save As in the File menu. Again, your focus is only on the Save As option. This is the built-in Microsoft choice, the one on which you can predictably rely. If, however, you happen to have an additional option of Save as Adobe PDF, this is not the option we recommend for the task at hand. We select Save As. You will be asked to commit to a save location in this part of the step. Please navigate to and select this location for your saved PDF to be stored. If you are unsure which selection to make, click on Browse, if available, and then navigate to the storage device or area you will use. In the drop-down Save as Type menu, we are selecting the PDF option. Before we move on, we can confirm that accessibility options in our Microsoft Save as PDF have been engaged in the default selections for this choice. In other words, Microsoft has already pre-selected document structure tags for accessibility. As long as you've not messed with that default setting, you will be okay as far as this step is concerned. Complete this task by clicking Save. Built-in accessibility checker in Microsoft Word. When you are creating a document with accessibility in mind, you are creating something to be digested by a screen reader, for that inclusive equitable experience that a user who must depend on the assistive technology tool. If you miss 20% of the expected and required settings, that is 20% of the experience that the user will fail to receive. The checkers are one part of the path to completion of your content creation and oversight. Before we show you how to switch on the accessibility checker tool in Microsoft Word, we note that this is not a self-contained, fully productive checker. You may still have to do your due diligence as a human user of the tool to check all of the accessibility settings beyond what the checker may share. First, click on Review in your menu. Then, click on Check Accessibility. On the right side of your display, an Accessibility panel with Inspection Results should appear. The inspection results will take one of three forms. Errors. Errors are definite, must-fix items. These are most clearly accessibility barriers, and must be addressed before moving on to the next format, such as a PDF. Items that will definitely be flagged as errors are images without the requisite alt text settings. Warnings. Warnings are significant inconveniences as opposed to hard errors. Microsoft Word places merged cells in tables and hard-to-read text contrast in this category. Tips. Tips are items that those that rely on assistive technology will be able to digest, but which may certainly be improved upon. For the benefit of all users. If you have a longer, multiple-page document, and Word does not detect heading style settings, this is when it realizes that headings should be acknowledged, and will present this alert in the Tips category. With each of these callouts, Microsoft Word provides guidance on why a concern is a concern, and then how to use Word, as it was intended to be used, to remedy the issue. While the built-in checker has shown us that an alt text entry was missing and marking this oversight as an error, the automated checker does not necessarily remind you earlier in your document creation to place heading settings to content, nor does it give an error when these are missing, but a tip. So, while we may think that, with this inspection results message,
no accessibility issues found. People with disabilities should not have difficulty reading this document.
This is just the start of our accessibility oversight. Templates for accessible syllabus design. Before this training presentation concludes, we remind you that we provide a number of resources on the OAR, Office of Accessibility Resources, website, including templates for accessible syllabi and degree forms.
For further information and for continued assistance with your syllabi, whether in Microsoft Word, in Google Docs, or directly within your Web Campus course, please contact our office at its dedicated support email address, accessibilityresourceteam-request@unlv.edu.